Now then, the nominations for this year's BRIT Awards are going to be announced later today, and top tips for Best Group and Album include the Britpop perennials Oasis, but also likely to be among the nominations are the Leeds band the Kaiser Chiefs, the brother and sister pairings that make up the Magic Numbers, and the Scottish solo artist K.T. Tunstall. Well, the latest crop of British talent has been aided and abetted by a massive rise in the downloading of music via the internet. None more so than the Arctic Monkeys, who may have arrived too late for this year's Brits, but have already been branded the first superstars of the download generation. And if last year's music sales are anything to go by, 2006 is likely to be dominated by downloads. 2005 saw 26.4 million songs legally downloaded in Britain. That's a whopping 400% rise from 2004. The British public are now the biggest downloaders in Europe, with around 500,000 songs making it onto our MP3s and our PCs each week. And at an average price of just 88 pence for a download, compared to over £3 for a CD single, it's no surprising that downloading is set to dictate British music sales for the next 12 months.
So let's kick around some of these subjects now with Matt Phillips from BPI, the Record Industries Trade Association, and Matt Everritt as well, who's XFM's music news editor. Welcome to you, gentlemen, both of you. Matt Phillips, let's start with you. What do you think is the health or the state of health of British music right now?
Well, I think the British music industry is in extremely good health. I mean, we've just come through a fantastic year of great new British talent. We've seen the likes of Coldplay have returned with a fantastic album. We've seen great new acts like the Kaiser Chiefs breaking through. And album sales in the UK compared to the rest of the world are still holding up pretty well. Last year we sold more artist albums than we've ever sold before, and as we say, legal downloading, that business has really taken off too. So it means that consumers can not only buy stuff on CD or vinyl or wherever, they've got so much more choice as to how they buy their music, and it's been a really important battle the British music industry's fought against illegal file sharing, and it's one that we're beginning to win. Consumers, as I say, now downloading legally, and there's so much great British talent come through, as we'll see in tonight's nominations for the BRIT Awards.
Yeah, more on that to come. Matt Everritt, first of all, never mind video killing the radio star. Do you think downloading, as we were hearing about there, is killing off the CD at the very least?
I think in the short term sales are going to suffer slightly, but it's a very good thing for music generally. It means fans have got access to music without sort of paying for it. They can hear a myriad of new bands and find out what they want without having to actually expend any money at all on actually going to shop and buying singles, which is good. It encourages new bands.
We're a tapeless newsroom here. I don't know how radio stations have gone. Have you gone
completely
tapeless as well?
These days, yeah.
A bit of both, you know.
Really?
We do find ourselves occasionally sort of playing stuff straight off an MP3 that we've sort of downloaded if it's a brand new band that we just have, you know, to sort of get out there. So it's a healthy thing. That access is wonderful.
Has it really brought new talent to the fore, or is that something of a fallacy, that actually the marketing push, that the marketing spend by the big companies really still dictates what's in the top 20?
Some bands will still get a push from the record company, but if you look at the example of, say, the Arctic Monkeys, who had songs on MySpace.com, which is a sort of music site where bands can just upload their tunes for free. In fact, you can just access these straight away. And they released one limited edition EP, and the next thing that they released was a #1 in the proper full-on charts. And that's just on the power of fans. There's very little marketing budget. There was no massive sort of advertising push there. That's just fans. They were selling out venues of about 2,500 people, having never released any records at all, just on the basis of people going to MySpace.com and listening to their music, which has got to affect the way that record companies think about signing new bands.
Why do you think that Brits have taken to downloading in such a big way? We've always complained about the price of CDs, but are we open and responsive to new technology, do you think, in this country?
Well, I think so, definitely. I think the big change that we've seen is that MP3 players are effectively the new Walkman. And now that consumers can take around, you're not talking about a rubbish compilation tape, you can carry around thousands and thousands of songs with you. What the music industry has tried to do is to try to give consumers the opportunity to do that legally. As I say, we've had a big problem for 5 years where illegal file sharing has taken off, where people are able to swap songs on the internet with that, and that effectively means that no one's getting paid for it. No one's getting paid for it. That means that there's no money going back into the record companies to invest in new bands.
On, right?
Absolutely,
the illegal side is still quite big.
The illegal side is still big. It's still a massive problem. Even now, you know, parents are discovering that they've got kids that are file sharing at home, and they don't think it's that big a deal. They say, oh, it's just like home taping was in the 80s, and it's a world apart. And in terms of the damage that it does to the music industry, it's huge. £650 million was lost to the British music industry alone in the last 2 years through file sharing.
It's a rich industry, though, isn't it?
Well, I suppose you could counter that with just because someone's perceived to be rich, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay to steal from them. And I think you've got to bear in mind that £650 million lost to the record industry means that that money is not going into new bands. Now, fortunately...
Right, but just to pursue the point, the record industry were shrieking at us in the days of cassette players, saying, you know, you can't take a brand new album and dub it to a cassette player and then send it to your friends. That is illegal. I don't know whether it was ever tested in a court of law, but people did it to a modest level. It didn't actually affect the record industry one squid, did it?
I think you can look at the two in isolation. I think there's a world of difference you'll find in taking a second-rate copy of a tape and giving it to one friend than illegally distributing perfect digital copies of loads of songs on the internet. And I can tell you something for free. If you look at the top 10 of illegally file-shared songs, it's not obscure music, it's not new music, it's the top hits that you need to reinvest into new talent. But it's a battle that the industry is beginning to win. As I say, last year the illegal downloading was up 400%, and it's about giving consumers more choice, and that choice is only going to get better throughout this year. I think what's important from our point of view is that it's the British record companies are continuing to invest in new British bands, and the consumers are buying them, as is going to be reflected in the BRIT Award shortlist.
OK, well, let's talk about the BRIT Awards. We're going to talk about the exportability of British bands shortly, but in terms of the BRIT Awards tonight, what sort of nominations can we expect?
Well, normally the BRIT Awards leans towards being a recognition of the more commercially successful bands, rather than the more critically acclaimed bands. But this year, having hinted a bit last year with Franz Ferdinand and some of the more slightly underground bands, this year the two seem to have come together. Bands like the Magic Numbers and the Kaiser Chiefs, Maxima Park, Hard Five, been critically acclaimed and are new, exciting music, but also shifting in massive copies, which hasn't, in massive numbers, which hasn't happened for quite a long time. So they'll do well. Gorillaz will do amazingly well, I should think. Damon Albarn's Simeon, cartoon supergroup. U2 will do very well in international. James Blunt, unfortunately, will probably do very well just because...
Why unfortunately?
It's a bit bland for me, to be honest. But, you know...
That's a bloke talking, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at the BPI's list, the 2005's top-selling album.
Yep, absolutely.
Can't knock it. Can you?
Can't all be wrong.
I'm just one person. 8 million housewives, can't be wrong.
That sounds, the bands you've quoted sound very much like a rerun of the Mercury Music Award, doesn't it? With Kaiser Chiefs out there as clear favourite and then didn't get it in the end, so...
Absolutely, there is, for the first time, both awards are very, 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 very close indeed. Katie Tunstall as well got nominated for a Mercury. She's, I believe, playing at the nominations this afternoon for the BRIT, so it's quite likely that she's going to get nominated for something.
Do they matter?
Yes, I think
they
do matter.
Give a fillip to a career, can they?
The Mercuries are very important because they bring bands to the attention of people that maybe wouldn't have heard these slightly more, were once left field but now sort of mainstream artists. And the Brits is doing that, but to a much higher level now. You know, many people will go out and buy, say, the Magic Numbers album on the strength of this, if they haven't bought it already, and really, really enjoy it. So yeah, it is important.
OK, Matt, stay there. We'll come back to both of you, Matt and Matt. But first of all, let's just catch up with the